Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builder Supply, and this video is to bring you a closer look at the Baldwin number 0340. This is a Dutch door quadrant, and this is being shown in the 150 finish or satin nickel. And a Dutch door quadrant is one of those pieces of hardware that you may never encounter in your entire life, or at least not up close or on a daily basis. But it's one of those pieces of hardware that do a job elegantly. They're the only piece of hardware that does what they do in terms of solving the particular requirements of the opening. And this is what it looks like. At least this is the business end of it. Here's the strike. As that bird's mouth type preparation in the face of it. And there's a knob or a post right in the back side of that, so that when you operate the quadrant, it's this feature back here that is engaging in the strike to lock the Dutch door together. So a Dutch door quadrant is going to allow you to secure the top and bottom leaves of the Dutch door together. I've seen these installed in a variety of different applications, and I don't believe that there's a hard and fast rule about how you install them. And what I mean is, how do you position it? What will be your exact positioning on the door assembly? But the way that I've seen it most commonly installed is when this portion is mounted to the top panel. And I would agree with that being the best way to go, because if you were to install this on the bottom leaf and then lift the unit up to lock the top leaf, that would be elegant, because when you've got the leaves unlocked from each other, you're going to have a scenario where when the top leaf is opened and this is dropped down, you don't have any hardware hanging off the top of the top of the leaf. The top leaf, you have no hardware hanging off that bottom rail. That, to me, would be a disadvantage, to have hardware hanging off of a moving top leaf of a Dutch door. However, one could imagine that you might have an unintentional unlocking of the door. I suppose it's possible that this might come unlocked. Maybe if I was rattling the top door to where I literally got this to shake loose, and this is very stiff and stays in any position that I place it in as a result of the manufacturing process. But what about 10 years from now? This might loosen up and no longer stay exactly where I want it. If this hardware was going to fail, I would want it to fail in the locked position, meaning the weight of this will force the quadrant portion to come down and stay, at least, if not fully engaged, partially engaged in the strike assembly itself. Okay. So having it installed to the top leaf may not be the most elegant way in terms of having hardware hanging off of there, but it might be the most prudent way to do it. This is what that strike looks like. And that's 150 finish satin nickel, very nice, and it's obviously made of all solid brass, being Baldwin. Now, the summary of a quadrant is that they're fully reversible. You can obviously install this either side of the door. This will tip in either direction. Non-handed, high quality, self-lubricating nylon washer for positive constant tension when bolt is in the locked position. They're saying that this is going to stay in place because of that nylon washer that's in there. 10 years down the road, it may not be so positively positioned at all times. I don't have any practical experience with that, but I know what things look like 10 years down the road. When the bolt is in the locked position, both pivot and keeper are in straight line. So that means that the face of the top leaf and the face of the bottom leaf are flush with each other. There's no offset to anything, so that when this is all locked, the back side of the top plate and the back side of the bottom plate are flush with each other. I suppose that's important to know and understand, maybe from the perspective that your leaves may not be completely flush with each other. They would need to be for this to work, which they would be. You wouldn't have a different offset on the placement of the top and bottom leaves. Although, I suppose if you're manufacturing the door yourself, be aware of the fact that they need to have the same inset, really is what it's called. Specially designed tapered strike promotes secure interlock of top and bottom leaves of the Dutch doors, what I call the bird's mouth preparation. You know, this interlock will allow you to feed that and draw the door panels tight and closed together. Okay, let's show you the screws. You'll get 2 packages of these screws. You'll need a total of 8, obviously in a complementary finish. Let's go over some dimensional properties now of the Quadrant. Overall width of the mounting plate, about 2.5. The height of the mounting plate, about 1.5 inches. The overall height of the unit, about 4 3/8. Then to the back side of the locking area, that center line looks like it's at 4 inch. So if that's at 4 inch, and your overall height of the strike is about 1.5 inches, you're going to be 4 3/4 from the top of the plate down to the bottom of this plate. Width of the strike itself, 2.5. Thickness of the plate, looks like it's about 1/4 inch. And being Baldwin, it's going to have exceptional fit and finish. That's just synonymous with the Baldwin hardware name. And Baldwin hardware has gone through a significant amount of evolution naturally. Now, being first exposed to Baldwin hardware over 25 years ago, you had the estate collection, their high-end levers and knobs, mortise locks, tubular style locks, and then their hardware. Their hardware which would involve mail slots, surface bolts, house numbers. It would get into floor stops, baseboard mounted stops, dust-proof strikes, very high-end hardware that you'll install in a home and even in some commercial applications as well. And of course, Dutch door quadrants. A sister product of a Dutch door quadrant would be a Dutch door bolt. And a Dutch door bolt is nothing other than a surface bolt that will allow you to lock the 2 panels together. And generally the business end of the surface bolt, the knob, is on the top leaf and you push the bolt down. Not only that gravity will promote it staying locked rather than falling out of the strike, but the strike of a Dutch door bolt specifically is meant to be elegantly mortised into the top of that bottom leaf and have a nice radiused outside profile to it. A Dutch door bolt from Baldwin would be a 0345 would be a good part number for that. And then of course all of the different finishes that Baldwin makes they can do on this Dutch door quadrant. You don't see these pieces of hardware often. You don't see Dutch doors that often, and even less quadrants. You'll see bolts, and you'll see bolts, just generic bolts, you know, hook and eyes. I've seen lots of different ways to lock these doors together. But if you're dealing with a high-end residential application and you're going for a specific look, maybe one that might be period correct, a quadrant like this has been a piece of hardware that has existed for decades. You might be just simply wanting to or needing to go with period accurate looking hardware. Finally, there's a link below this video to the manufacturer's page where you can pull up not only all of the Baldwin products that we sell, but a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to several product catalogs. And I would suggest that you look at, from that Baldwin page, sometimes it's hard to come across the real good Baldwin catalogs. And in my opinion, the estate catalog that existed several years ago was a great catalog because it focused on that core product line before the introduction of their images line and many other variations of hardware, and then a significant broadening out of the available finishes. So on that manufacturer's page, look for anything that says estate, especially ones that are older. I've got a Baldwin Bath and General hardware catalog price list from 2009. It's helpful to go back and do historical research on what was available from Baldwin at a time. If you have any questions on the Baldwin 0340 Dutch door quadrant or any other Baldwin product, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.